Greetings. I am Legacy Moon, and this is True Crime and Mysteries. Welcome back, all my current subscribers. Welcome to those of you who are here for the very first time, and welcome to all of my reoccurring visitors. On November the 17th, 2022, police officers responded to a residence in South Boston, Massachusetts, after receiving a 911 call from a man and his wife stating that they found a baby in the freezer. The man told the officials when they arrived that he was cleaning out the apartment of his 69-year-old sister, Alexis Aldemir, when the discovery was made. According to the authorities on that day, 2 male babies and 2 female babies were found, and it was determined that they were all siblings. Now, these babies were frozen solid, so they had been in there for quite some time. These babies were in the freezer, wrapped in tin foil and in a shoebox. Their umbilical cords were still attached. The 2 female babies had not only their umbilical cord attached, they also had their placenta still attached. The medical examiner said that the babies were full-term babies, but that there was no report that was scientifically possible to determine how long the babies lived, when they passed, or any of the things. The autopsy found no signs of internal or external trauma and no evidence of obvious injuries. They also found that there was no sign of food, milk, or formula in the babies' stomachs. The medical examiner concluded that the death of these babies was undetermined. Records show that Miss Aldemir began living in the apartment as far back as April 1982, and sometime in October 1983, she purchased the apartment. The police needed to investigate and get answers to who these babies were and what happened. So they tracked Miss Aldemir down at a residential healthcare facility, and of course they were able to determine that these were her children because they had an order for her DNA. Now I'm going to say for myself, in reading into this, it looks like, well, no, I'll hold that opinion. But what they're saying is that between March of 1980 and 2021, Miss Aldemir worked for an accounting firm in Boston. Her co-workers described her as a heavyset woman who had a thing for wearing loose-fitted clothing, regardless of what the season was. The co-workers pointed out that they never knew or suspected that she was ever pregnant. Now, I bet you're wondering, as I was, how could this woman have gotten pregnant 4 times? Because from what they're finding, she lived a pretty quiet life. But further DNA testing was done, and it was determined that the father was a man she had dealt with, and he was the father of all 4 babies. That man passed away in 2011, so we'll never know what he knew. It was also determined that Miss Aldemir and this man in question also had a 5th child, and it was a baby girl, and the baby had been given up for adoption. However, there were no records to support that. The police tried to interview Ms. Aldemir, but she appeared confused and demonstrated a lack of understanding about where she was and who she was speaking to. So basically, she was unable to provide any answers to the investigator. And, everything that they do know, or what little they do know, has come through the investigative work. It was later determined that through investigation that her cognitive ability was diminished, and a lawyer who spoke on her behalf says that she would not likely be able to stand trial. So basically, she's unfit to stand trial. Based on this and a few other factors, it was determined that Ms. Aldemir would not be able to stand trial. Therefore, no charges have been brought against her. The prosecutors felt that there were just elements to this case that could never be answered, and it would more than likely not go to trial anyway, so they opted not to charge her. So I'm not saying that she does that. I'm not saying that her cognitive is not diminished. It might very well be, but it's also very convenient. And the fact that investigators, so what I'm basically trying to say, so you can commit any crime. Say, for example, you kill someone, you unalive someone, and because you can't remember it or your cognitive functions have diminished, you don't have to be tried for that. There's that one guy, I forgot where they caught him, who had been killing women for years. By the time they got to him, he was in a wheelchair and had one kidney, and he stood trial. I just don't understand. I just feel like it's 4 babies gone that they found that they can account for, and no one is facing justice for that. There's also a 5th baby out there that she allegedly gave up for adoption, but they can't even track that. Who knows how many babies are where that this woman had? So, I mean, I know I really feel, and I have a soft spot for the elderly, but you've got these babies in a freezer. She can't tell you what happened, why it happened. She can't tell you anything. And this is okay. I mean, so she gets to live out her life free in a healthcare facility. I'm sorry. It may sound harsh, but I just don't think that that's fair. And she should have to face some kind of accountability for what she's done. They were her babies and her partner's baby, because they don't even say really that this couple were married. It just says that they were together. So we don't know what happened, and it's almost like we don't care what happened. We can't prove anything. She doesn't know anything, so that's that. And I mean, that's my feelings. I just feel like there should be some sort of accountability from somebody.
5 investigates tonight, learning new details about the infant remains discovered in a South Boston condo.
Karen Anderson has been looking into the woman who owned that condo and the call that first raised questions. What have you learned, Karen?
Well, Eric and Ed, it's still a mystery whose children those were or how they got there, but we do know the secret began to unravel all the way back in August.
Police called to 838 East Broadway last month after the gruesome discovery, the remains of 4 infants in the freezer of Unit 3. Who were the parents? How did the bodies get there? Questions still unanswered. But interviews and public records do tell us about where they were found. The condo unit is owned by this woman, 67-year-old Alexis Aldemir, bought in 1983 for nearly $50,000. Also on the deed, her father, Joseph Harrelson, a former Army colonel, veteran of World War II and Korea, and member of the Joint Chiefs of Staff. He died in 2003. Alexis's mother, Jeanette, was divorced and lived in the same building until recently going into a nursing home.
Years ago, I had 2 dogs and would be over at the park, and the mother, Jeanette, would walk over and sit on the bench and we would chit-chat. Alexis came over occasionally, but the mother came over a couple of times a week.
And what was Alexis like?
I didn't really get to know her. She was quiet, and I always felt like she just walked over to more or less check on the mother, make sure she was okay.
Andrea Winters lives nearby and says Alexis took care of her mother for years. But neighbors say they noticed a change in her. On August 15th, the smell of gas from her condo. Someone called police. According to probate court records, Alexis was found at home with the gas stove left on and with confusion. She was diagnosed with dementia and admitted to Tufts Medical Center. A social worker from the hospital went to probate court asking for a guardian to be appointed because of Alexis's inability to care for herself and for her to be discharged to a skilled nursing memory care facility for long-term care. Her brother came to Boston to clean out both condos. He called police after discovering the remains in the freezer. 2 infant boys, 2 infant girls in boxes wrapped in aluminum foil.
Now, to be clear, authorities have not released any information suggesting wrongdoing by Alexis Aldemir or anyone in her family. The latest information from Boston police is that autopsy results are pending.
District Attorney is calling it one of the most complex, unusual, and perplexing cases that his office has ever encountered. 4 dead newborn babies found inside a South Boston apartment freezer.
And new on 5 tonight, there has been a critical decision about this bizarre case. 5 Investigates' Karen Anderson has been following the story right from the start. She joins us live in the news. And so, Karen, what's new?
The DA announced today the woman at the center of this investigation will not be charged. Now, investigators say they will never know exactly what happened to those 4 infants. 2 boys and 2 girls were discovered in their own mother's freezer. So as we first told you, the infants were found in November of 2022. They were inside shoe boxes, which were wrapped in tin foil and left in a freezer in a condo in this building on South Broadway belonging to 69-year-old Alexis Aldemir. Now, she had worked at an accounting firm for decades, and none of her colleagues there ever knew her to be pregnant. Investigators say the babies all had the same father, who died in 2011. The couple also had a 5th child. She was given up for adoption. Now, as we first reported, the infants were discovered after Aldemir was diagnosed with dementia and her brother came to clean out her apartment. The DA said today they cannot ethically move forward with the case, that it cannot bring to trial, citing Aldemir's current cognitive state.